Hi, everyone, and welcome to this review episode of The Wayward Dragons, a podcast where two super lame and nerdy friends that are into all sorts of weird and spooky stuff talk about weird and spooky stuff.
Yeah, that's very true. So, this is our review episode where we're going to talk about all the stuff that we've either watched, read, music, whatever that we have found interesting between recordings that we want to share with each other. So, I'm Kelsey.
Yep. And I sometimes am Johnny.
How are you?
Look, I say sometimes because,
it's mildly questionable some days.
As well.
I totally feel that.
Yeah. No, I'm okay. Just, living life. Nothing fantastical to report to the listeners.
No. Did you read?
What about yourself?
I'm okay. Surviving,
Did I read?
allergies.
I've never read before in my life. I don't know what words are.
Did you read between episodes?
No, so I was actually I have this weird thing that I was doing where I was trying to catch up on or to podcasts.
I was like, did you finish that one?
Yes. Well, I say I finished. I am up to date on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So for the past like month, I have been heavily invested in a podcast called Hello from the Magic Tavern. If you've never listened to it or never heard of it,
Spotify.
Yeah, I guess I sent you a link to an episode.
Yeah, but so for Spotify,
because they had
once you're done, they'll recommend something. I think that's what popped up. Keep talking.
I highly recommend it for anyone who is a fan of like fantasy or just comedy and dumb stuff. So the premise behind it is the main guy, Arnie Niekamp, and yes, that is his actual name, because he is playing a characterized version of himself. Fell through a portal behind Burger King in Chicago, and it was transported to the magical world of Foon, where he just so happened to have his podcasting equipment with him, and is getting a light Wi-Fi signal from the Burger King, and he records a podcast with his two co-hosts, a shapeshifter that typically takes the form of a badger and a wizard, and they interview people in this magical, fantastical land. After I started listening to it, I found out that, hey, they're making a cartoon based off of it.
It was the Stinky Dragon. Tales from the Stinky Dragon is what popped up.
Oh no, this is Hello from the Magic Tavern. Very different.
Yeah, well, you can't see it, but it looks...
Yeah, I cannot see anything. But yeah, no, so I managed to listen to 9 years worth of a podcast in 4 weeks.
Solid. I'm proud of you. That's good.
Well, I have problems. But also I was listening at 2.7 speed.
I was like, yeah, you speed it up way faster than I care to ever listen to something at.
I just process things faster, and it's certain things, if it's going too slow, it's actually difficult for me. So, so and it's really weird because if I cast it to the TV and listen to it from the TV, then I can't adjust the speed, so it's so slow.
Oh yeah.
But no, so highly recommend. Definitely an interesting journey. Also, definitely not from everyone. There is some crude humor in there and some weird nuances. I will have to say, while there is a basic structure and storyline to it that they set up,
kind of willy-nilly in it.
It is improv.
Oh, okay. So it's everywhere.
So it's improv, but there's so many freaking pop culture references and stuff. It's hilarious.
Okay.
And there's whoever is in charge of their wiki and in charge of like keeping the lore online and stuff,
Yeah.
I
They need a raise.
I salute that person or people because that is there is so much stuff there, and they literally just throw random shit out
Yeah.
there. And so Arnie will reference something from our world, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we have that too," but it's something completely different. It's just like the same name of. It's like for the holiday special, they talk about
Yeah.
Christmas, or he talks about Christmas, and he goes, "Yeah," or they're like, "Yeah, we have Christmas," and they're like, "What?" And Arnie goes, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's a holiday where this guy named Chris must do anything anyone tells him to."
Solid. That's funny.
Yeah, no, but they've had so many guest stars on
Yeah.
there. Like for any of our nerdy listeners, Iffy Waddy Way was on an episode. Like I said, Hank Green
Okay.
actually plays a Mothman
Yeah.
or Mothman.
Mothman.
They pronounce it Mothman.
Mothman.
Uh,
Okay.
Erika Ishii, if anyone knows who they are, uh, they're on there for a couple episodes, but it's absolutely phenomenal. But that's really that, and I watched a TV
What'd you
show
watch?
that I was very pleased with.
What'd you watch?
So for list, I don't remember if I read this one before we started recording or if I read this after we started recording. There's a book series. The first book is Three Body Problem.
Okay.
If I read it when we were recording, it would have been like one of our first episodes. I don't
I don't
remember.
remember.
It is a very interesting like moral dilemma type book series. And like it deals a lot with morality and perception of right and wrong, and like where we sit in the universe and where we sit in the greater picture, and looking at the greater good of things, and
Okay.
whether certain sacrifices are worth sacrificing. So Netflix made a TV series out of the first book, and it goes like a little bit into the second book. Honestly, I was really hesitant because it's Netflix, and as we all know, Netflix is very much hit or miss.
Yes.
This was so spot
Yeah.
on. Like the only notable change they did is one of the main characters they changed the gender of,
Okay.
which
Okay.
it
You
doesn't
can't.
really matter in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't really change the storyline at
Yeah.
all. But it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The acting in it was phenomenal. The special effects they used were absolutely stunning. Cinematography was great. Just the writing, everything. I have zero negative notes on that
Oh,
show.
wow. Okay.
And yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, and you know
Yeah.
me, if it's something from a book that I enjoy, I am a stickler for it. I have zero negative notes.
Okay. That.
So,
Okay. All right.
yeah, definitely worth checking out. It gets a little trippy at times, just to warn you and warn our listeners. But what about you? What have you been reading or
Oh,
listening
okay.
to? Or
I got a lot. I got a lot to cover. So, because we just started with TV, we ended with TV. I'm gonna start with the TV. So, it's on Netflix. It's based off of a book series. I've yet to read it, but it's called the Half Blood trilogy. Half bad trilogy. I'm sorry.
Half
Half
Bad?
bad trilogy it's by Sally Green. And the show is not the same name. Let me find it. I forget what it was called. And we just watched it too. Well, shit.
Half Lost?
No.
Half Wind and Half Bad? Is that the series?
The half
Sally Green?
bad, yeah. It's by Sally Green. It's 3 or 4 with the box set. So what is it called on? It's called something weird on Netflix. The Bastard Son and the Devil Himself is what it's called
Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
Netflix. So
I'm pretty sure I've talked about that.
this is one of the TV series. that Netflix canceled. So there's only one season.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. That was, I'm going to have to read the book
Oh yeah, no.
series.
Yeah, I think I talked about that at one point when I had watched it. But yeah, it is really
that was
good.
really good. We just kind of stumbled upon it. It gives me vampire vibes because of where they have to get their blood when they're 17. I thought that was kind of interesting. Because I was like, I'm looking at my husband, I was like, this gives off vampire vibes because they have to have blood by their birthday by the time they reach 17.
Yeah.
You can tell very much it's young adult. It's a young adult book series. I'm very sad that Netflix kind of canceled it because they set up the ending of that season to keep going very beautifully. Like,
Yeah.
they set the ending up very good, and the fact that they didn't continue, so that's why I was like, well, now I gotta read, because now I gotta read like what happens to everybody. Like, now I gotta figure out what's going on.
It's a ploy from the book community
I'm starting to
to
think
do only
so.
the first season of a show and then cancel it. That way they force you to actually buy the
Yeah.
show or buy
Yeah.
the books.
Well, like in there, it's not
It's
anywhere
a
else.
it's a conspiracy from the paper industry.
Yes, yes. So it's like, well, maybe it got canceled on Netflix, but it's on Paramount, because it's English. So I was like,
Yeah.
no, it's nowhere, which
Yeah.
made me very sad. So it's on I have a list. This year, one of my goals is to like physically go and get through my physical books, but also start making a dent in my Goodreads TBR. So I've made a list of like the books I need to read so I don't get too out of place. So it's on my list to get from the
You
library.
know, I don't think I could ever actually make a dent in my Goodreads TBR because I add stuff to it and then completely forget that it's on there.
Yeah. So when you physically go on a computer and log on to your Goodreads, your TBR gets numbered, which I think is awesome. So I have a random number generator, and it picks a number, and here we go. So that's how I'm kind of tackling. And then because I'm on Fable, I pick one of the top of my TBR because I know that's from the book clubs I'm a part of that I haven't been able to read. So I pick that, and then I pick a physical book. We'll talk about the physical book here in a minute. I'm not.
I currently have 900 books on my TBR.
I have just shy of 600. So making some headway. We also started watching Secret City.
That's a great one too.
We have not watched the second season.
Well, I will say this: the first season is better than the second.
Okay, I had a feeling.
But it's still really enjoyable. It's I want to say it's Portuguese, like original language is in
I
Portuguese.
thought it was Australian.
It's Secret City.
Yeah.
No, it's Brazilian. I'm pretty sure it's Brazilian.
They're in Australia.
That is not the series I thought you were talking about.
I was like, it's on Netflix.
Well, this was too.
Where it's based in Australia, and they have a trans defense person.
No, sorry, I am thinking of Invisible City.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, Secret City.
Invisible City. Invisible City is a Brazilian series on Netflix that is phenomenal.
No.
So, what is Secret City? Because I am not familiar with that at all.
So we've only watched the first season. So it's based in Australia, and it's obviously very political. You get a lot of like West Wing vibes, because everyone's stabbing everybody in the back. But there is a young girl in China that they like detain that's Australian, and part of it is just getting her home. Well, there's kind of a cover up with that. And the defense person, one of the defense like administrators, maybe would be the right word. They're trans. And she kind of figures out what's happened and what's going on, and her best friend, I'm gonna say best friend, I'm not gonna ruin that, best friend kind of goes on a mission to find out what happened to her, because she's like, someone killed my best friend. Somebody beat up my best friend. Like, they strangled her. I'm going to find out what happened. So she just kind of goes on a mission to find out what happened, and she finds out what happens. And I think it's kind of prevalent to what's kind of going on in the world today. Part of the series is they pass a kind of like a censorship law in the show. So where if you publish anything that might harm Australia in a way, um, like with enemies and stuff, they have the right to arrest you, type thing. So part of the show is this censorship, and the journalist is like, I don't care if I get detained for this. They need to know what happened, type thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of important with everything that's going on in the world today, with all the TikTok stuff going on and all that stuff. So that's part of the show, is this law, and then the other part is just very political, where everyone's backstabbing everybody and all that stuff. And then you have the journalist who's, I'm gonna find out what happens, and she finds out what happens. We have not watched the second season yet. We finished Half Bad last night. So yeah, that's show wise. Music wise, I don't know why I have not talked to you about this, because I feel like this person is kind of right up your alley. And if I felt like if you met this person, you would be friends. Like, instant
Okay.
friends. So the artist is called I Am Talk. And he's like this folk kind of punk kind of person.
You did mention this.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, I wrote it down because I keep forgetting whether I've talked to you about him.
Yes, you did mention this guy, because I remember like their appearance, but could not remember the name, and I was trying to figure out the name the other day.
Yeah.
So thank you.
They just went to an award show, and he is completely like in white.
The fur?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the pictures that shows up. Like,
well, he had antlers on.
like basically, yeah. Yeah, the antler crown.
Yeah, yeah. And at his shows, he flings his Crocs into the crowd, which I think is funny. But no, they were just at the Juno Awards, and it popped up on this. But his song "A Little Bit Happy" is one of my favorites by him. It is written in his perspective from his partner's perspective of him, of if I saw myself how you saw myself, then I could be a little bit happy and stuff. So I love that song. And then
yeah, that actually.
no, you
go ahead. That actually reminds me of a new album from a bunch of singles that this one artist released, but I will talk about them when you're done with your thing.
So my next thing, did you have a Tamagotchi when you were a kid?
No.
Okay. So I'm about.
But I know they have come back.
So there's a self-care app, and I'm with my job. I'm struggling to find my routine and my habits again because my schedule's kind of all over the place. So there's an app. My husband makes fun of me for this, called Finch, right? And you pick an egg, and you get a little creature. I don't know if you can see her. Maybe if I.
It is extremely blurry.
Yeah.
I cannot.
Can you see her? Okay. So.
Is it an owl?
I have no idea.
Just like a penguin.
But her name is Potato.
Penguin. Looks like. Yeah,
and she's got Adrian the turtle. And you write down, like, you put in, like, what you want your habits to be, goals that you want every day and stuff. And as you check them off, you give whatever you've picked energy for the day. And then once they have enough energy, then they go on in like a 7.5 hour adventure. And then when they come back, they talk about what they saw with you. It's Tamagotchi vibes. Tamagotchi vibes to keep
Yeah,
the
and
spark alive.
like I said, I saw some advertisement for it. I haven't like heard any real people talk about it.
Yeah, it's. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, you can see her little nest she's got rocking with her little hat and stuff, and um, yeah. Well, like what I thought was kind of cool was it's not about like goals, like your habits or whatever you want to kind of accomplish. Um, they've got like reflections depending on what you want to kind of get off your mind. There's quizzes of like how bad is my mental illness right now? How bad is my anxiety? If it is, they have what's called a first aid kit. You can't see it, but it's this last button right here. And they talk you through breathing exercises and stuff like that. There's also a button for helplines if none of that works. Breathing exercises, walks you through some exercises if you're that's part of your day. Acts of kindness, it's not just like goals, it kind of really helps with your mental health. Um and then I just think it's absolutely fantastic because I can change how she looks, I can change how what her little place looks like. You become friends with your friends on here if you wanted, but her name is Potato. That's the name it generated for her, which I find funny. Um, so yeah, and now I'll get into my books. So I finished Kings of the Wyld. You will like that. I think you will like that. There's enough.
It's on my TBR list. Right
That
after
series
the series that
was recommended.
somebody else recommended for me.
Yes, I really think you're gonna like that. It's just enough funniness to kind of keep you going. Um, Moog is my absolute favorite. He is just so he's your gay wizard and he's fucking funny. He's so funny. Um Basically the premise of the book is Clay Cooper just wants a quiet retirement, you know, living his life with his wife and his daughter, being on watch at the wall. His good friend Gabe comes into town, basically tells him that he needs to get the band back together. They need to go rescue his daughter. She has volunteered to be part of the soldiers in Castia. Problem is Castia is under siege from a horde of Wild monsters. Um, so he wants to get the band back together to get into Castia to save his daughter. Um, so part of the novel is getting everybody back together and all the adventures that it takes to get everybody back together because it's just one not I wouldn't say bad thing, but it's just one adventure after the other. Like nothing is ever calm for them. Um and then figuring out how to save Rose from the Wild horde. So it's very funny. It can be kind of vulgar at times. It's very D&D vibes. Just it's so funny. Like it is. It's
Okay.
so funny to me. So it is part of a trilogy. I The other two are on my list. The only thing I'll complain about is the ending is kind of wrapped up very quickly, and you don't really. It's just kind of like, oh well, this happens to this person, this, and this, and it's just like, well, like okay, but let's that's too quick for me. Like a
Yeah.
little bit more substance, because I think the next book in the series follows Rose. I think that's what. Because the third one is not out yet. Oh no, I mean, it does follow his daughter. Um, it does follow Rose, but it's a different take. The third one is not out until July. July 4th.
Okay.
So yeah, it's all it says is set about 14 years after Bloody Rose, blurb to come. So it is part of a trilogy. The last part of the trilogy is not out. It to me it was absolutely funny. It's a thick one. It's about inch and a half, almost 2 inch thick book. It was pretty good. It was about 18 hours. Audiobook, real funny. Moog and Matrick,
I'll get it done in 3.
Galleon. He, if I was ever a warrior, that would who I would want to be. That's who I would grow up to aspire to be. Um,
That's what you want to grow up to be.
That's what I want to grow up to be. And then the next one I read, this one was part of my digital to TBR that I like randomly generated a number for. It's These Rebel Waves. It's by Sara RaaschKings. This is a duology. I am about to request the next book. But it follows 3 different young adults. I mean, they're not 21 yet. They're 18, 19. And it very much has religious undertones, racist undertones. But Grace LeRae is known for their plant magic. And Grace LeRae has been under civil war for a really long time. And one of the characters, the girl, is the daughter of 2 of the heads of the Civil War kind of campaign. And the point you're at in the book is where they're making a treaty with the country that they were at civil war with. And there's other stuff going on. There's a very infamous pirate that comes into play because one of the other nations ambassadors goes missing on Grace LeRae, and you find out that it's there's another plan in place. Not everyone is who they say to be. You can tell it's young adult. You know, I can tell I put this on my TBR when I was a lot younger. It is very interesting. Just it's because it's more political. It's more based on the political movements versus a relationship with the other person. I mean, there's obviously a relationship forming between 2 of the characters. I won't spoil all of it, but it's. I'll read the second one just to say I finished it. So it wasn't bad. You can just being almost in my 30s, you can tell when something's written for young adult. You can just tell. So it wasn't bad. I don't know. It took forever. It took me a minute to get into because it wasn't happening fast enough. Because it was all about the political stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, like I need other stuff in here because this is not going anywhere for me. Yeah. Well, Grace LeRae is known for their plant magic, and that was part of the Civil War. Was the nation that was basically had hold of them was wiping out people that were using the plant magic, but they themselves were using the plant magic, but they weren't going to tell anybody that's what they were doing. Because the king was using the plant magic to torture people and cause people this shaking sickness, which is basically like magic overload that your body literally just convulses because you've had so much magic in your body. And one of the characters is known to get rid of her shaking sickness because she was one of the people that were tortured by the king. So she's wanted because, well, how did you get rid of it? And she's like, well, I'm not telling you how I got rid of it. Like, fuck you kind of thing. Well, then you've got the pirate who she's contracted to help her find the missing ambassador. Well, you find out that he's not who he says he is. And then you follow the king's son, and he's gay. It's not relevant. I mean, it's relevant to the story, but it's not in a weird way. I don't know. It wasn't bad. I don't know how to pronounce this, and is there a way to flip my camera to you? It's by Susan Clarke. Piranesi, Piranesi.
Once again, what is it?
Piranesi. I don't. I actually read this. I
Piranesi?
didn't listen to it. But he lives in a very interesting house. His house has infinite corridors and rooms, and it seems to never end. The ocean floods the bottom floors, and the sky invades the top floors. And he lives alone except for one person called the Other. But the Other warns him that there's somebody else in the labyrinth. And this is coded in Storygraph as fantasy. This did not read like fantasy. This read like a thriller to me. Because the Other is not who he says he is. I'll spoil it. You find out that whatever his name is, his real name is
It's so I just looked
yeah.
it up. It's an Indian word in origin.
Okay.
It's Paranshi.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you find out his real name is Matthew, and he was writing a book about the Other's boss, because the Other, his boss, he believed that all of the old knowledge from long ago that ancient people used left us. But there was a way to get to it in this place called the Otherworld, the Labyrinth. And Matthew was researching him in general, and the Other transports him to the other world and traps him. So part of the book is him figuring out what exactly happened. I wish at the end there was just kind of more stuff, like, does he remember everything? Because part of the problem being in a labyrinth is you eventually forget everything. You forget your name, you forget everything before you went in, basically.
Okay.
So he doesn't eventually remember. Like he's like, I get it that like I'm a missing person, but that's not me. Like that's not me. So I kind of wish that, like, once I'm gonna spoil it, he gets out. That, like, does he reconnect with his family? You know, like, or does he kind of just live alone because he can't reconnect with them? Because it's like, I'm not the person you say I am. I might look like your loved one, but I'm not that person, type thing. So it reads like a thriller. This was part of Warnock's book club on Fable. He's on Instagram. Yeah, this was part of the book club for last month. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's fantasy. I would say this is more like a mystery thriller than anything. It may be like adventure.
with fantasy elements.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like full blown like fantasy, like Storygraph labels it as. I would say it's more fiction, adventurous, and like mystery with fantasy undertones of like going to another world, but that's like the only part. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And then I'm proud to announce that I've officially started my first Stephen King novel. So I'm gonna see how this goes.
That is a choice you have made.
Yeah. Yeah. So I normally read horror. I'm not huge down the horror rabbit hole. But I weirdly wrote all my physical books down on a Google Doc, numbered them all, number generated. So it randomly picked The Dead Zone. I've only read the prologue. Stephen King's got some fucking issues. If you don't like animal abuse, don't read it. You won't get past the prologue. So
yeah, I enjoy film adaptations of Stephen King stuff, but his books are definitely not for me.
I only have two. I have this one and I have like a dragon one, the dragon's eye or something. Um, so I'm definitely, I don't know if I'll read anything more just because of how weird this first one has started. Um, but yeah, yeah. There's a lot that I've started and stopped. We'll see how far I get. Um, I started a couple like native or native's the wrong word, indigenous character books. So the first one I don't know how far I'll get. The second one I've already figured it out. Um, but I'll still listen to it because it's not very long. So
Cool.
So yeah, that's all I got.
So the musician, the new album that I completely forgot about. So there is an amazing young musician. Well, I'd say young. She's around our age, or they're around our age rather. They are non-binary. Their music is very like folky.
Okay.
Apparently, they got started because their parents were evangelical singers, and so like their siblings got all wrapped into that and everything. And they actually know Dolly Parton.
Solid.
Uh, but so uh, it's like southern queer folk music kind of. But their name is Candy Carpenter. They are a non-binary musician who actually sings about all sorts of things, including traumas they've went through, uh, deconstruction, identifying themselves, both gender identity and sexuality, and struggling with that, coming to term with what they believe personally as faith, and um, a lot of their music, depending on what you've been through, what you've experienced in life, is relatable in different ways.
Yeah.
But I am going to put them on blast because more people need to know about their amazing music.
Sorry, your cat was behind you, and I thought your pillow was moving.
I didn't even realize the cat was in
Yeah.
here.
All of a sudden,
Um,
I'm sorry, I got very fixated on
oh, you're
that in the
good.
corner.
I didn't even realize the cat was in here. But yeah, so Candy Carpenter, highly recommend. Uh, amazing, amazing artist, and yeah, that's some of the songs may hit you a little deep in the feels.
Sometimes that's needed, though. Sometimes that's needed.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's
yeah. Well, because they released since they had a lot of singles, and they released the actual
yeah,
album. And so I was listening to the actual album and listened to one of the songs and actually started tearing.
yeah, yeah. That's how I feel about a little bit happy because just like everybody, I struggle with my own image of myself. So it was just like there are times I wish I could see myself how my husband sees me because there are days it's a struggle. Like, so I think that's absolutely needed sometimes. My candle just fell over. Sorry. So I think that's all I have. I hope everybody survived
That is all
the eclipse, even though this is coming out a week after the eclipse.
Yeah, if you're hearing this, I'm assuming you didn't die in the supposed apocalypse.
You need to look behind you. She's stretched out behind you. See her? Sorry. I just saw like a little paw get like inflex.
Throw something at her.
So yeah.
But yeah, so until next time, don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend.
Yeah. Do all of the things.
um,
Join us on Facebook and Instagram.
email us.
I was like, find me on Fable if you find me on Fable. So I very much post a lot more in-depth reviews, and I love Fable. It's a very nice.
Do you want to share your handle on Fable?
I am known as the Wayward Daughter, and in the description it says that I do book review podcast with my best friend, and it says the Wayward Dragons. So yeah, it's very much virtual book clubby. It's sometimes better than Facebook because it's just a whole bunch of book people, and it's not like Book Talk where you get shamed for you don't read this or whatever. So it's a lot of people just reading, struggling through their day sometimes, or trying to get out of a reading slump. But it's a lot of people just talking about books and hey, have you read this? Or hey, I'm looking for this um, type thing. So, and I like the review system better than Goodreads because Goodreads you can just write like a blank review, but like for um, sorry, I lit a spell candle and I'll show you here in a minute. It's not going well. Um,
You're
but
good.
so you pick the emotion that the book brought out in you. You can do half stars, which I think is cool, and then you pick keywords based off the book. So if there's stuff that's triggering, you can click all those things. If you didn't like it, what part of it didn't you like? Was it unsatisfying plot? Just the characters? Kind of how was the writing? Was it fast paced, easy kind of thing? So I like the review system a little bit better. The Android version is a lot it's farther behind than the ISO version. Because like at the I don't have it yet. They're still trying to update the parts on the Droid where you can edit the dates that you've read because you can't edit your dates right now. Um, but they do a monthly wrap up, so all the books that you say you've read, they make a nice little collage for you, and you can post that and stuff like that. So a lot of people post. That's all you see at the end of the month is everyone's wrap up. Um, so which I think is kind of cool. You can make as many lists as you want. You can join as many book clubs as you want. I'm in like 10. So I just joined an indigenous one. So the book I'm listening to right now is The Berry Pickers, and that's the one I've already figured out. I already know what happened, but I'm gonna listen to it anyway. 2 chapters and then I already know what happened. Yay, Neural Spice.
So until next time,
And
I'm
I'm
Johnny.
Kelsey. Bye.
Bye.